Marcus Chun stared at the rusted hull of what was supposed to be his new starship, feeling his life savings drain away like water through a broken dam. The Zephyrian merchant's 4 eyes gleamed with what Marcus now recognized as pure greed, not the friendly enthusiasm he'd mistaken it for 3 hours ago. "This is the ship you showed me in the holograms?" Marcus asked, his voice barely containing his anger. The vessel before him looked like it had been through a war, lost badly, then forgotten in a junkyard for 50 years. Kethvar's translator crackled as he responded, "All sails final, human. Ship is yours now. Papers already filed with Galactic Commerce Authority." The alien's tentacles writhed in what Marcus had learned was the Zephyrian equivalent of a shrug. Marcus walked around the ship, noting the mismatched hull plates, the jury-rigged engine housings, and what appeared to be blast damage along the starboard side. The ship was roughly the size of a large Earth cargo plane, but its design was unlike anything in the standard galactic databases. Strange angular sections jutted out at odd angles, and the metal itself had an unusual dark sheen that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "What class of ship is this exactly?" Marcus asked, pulling out his portable scanner. The device immediately began throwing error codes. "Ancient human design," Kethvar said quickly. "Very old, very reliable. Perfect for new independent trader like yourself." Marcus frowned. Ancient human design? That was impossible. Humanity had only joined the galactic community 23 years ago, and their first ships were all based on Terran Federation templates, which themselves were modified versions of captured Karathi vessels. He'd studied the history extensively before investing his inheritance in this venture. "Can I see the original documentation? Serial numbers, manufacturing records?" Kethvar's translator made a sound that might have been nervous laughter. "Records lost in Great Data Purge of 2387. Very common for ships this old. But ship is good. Engines work. Life support functions. What more does human need?" Marcus climbed the boarding ramp, which groaned ominously under his weight. The interior was just as confusing as the exterior. The corridors were too wide, too tall, as if designed for beings much larger than humans. The walls were lined with panels covered in symbols that looked almost familiar, but weren't in any human language he recognized. The bridge was the strangest part. Instead of the standard pilot's seat and navigation console found in modern ships, there were 7 stations arranged in a perfect circle around a central holographic display. Each station was clearly designed for a different type of being. One had tentacle grooves, another seemed built for wings, a third had what looked like tail rests. Multi-species design, he muttered to himself, running his hands over one of the consoles. The moment his fingers touched the dark material, the panel lit up with soft blue symbols. Marcus jerked his hand back, but the lights remained. His scanner was useless here too, displaying only gibberish when pointed at any of the ship systems. Marcus tried connecting it to the ship's computer through a standard port, but the interface protocols were completely incompatible. 20 minutes later, he found Kethvar waiting by the boarding ramp, clearly eager to leave. "Instruction manual," the alien said, handing Marcus a datapad. "Everything human needs to know." Marcus accepted the pad and immediately noticed it was written in basic galactic, not any human language. Worse, it appeared to be a hastily translated technical manual for a completely different class of ship. References to primary sun cores and quantum fold navigators filled pages that should have contained information about basic engine startup procedures. "This manual isn't for this ship," Marcus said. "Close enough. Kethvar's translatorship. Universal principes. Human is smart species, yes? Figure out easily." Before Marcus could protest further, the Zephyrian merchant activated his personal transport pad and shimmered away, leaving Marcus alone with his worthless purchase. Marcus spent the next 2 hours trying to make sense of the ship systems. None of the controls responded to standard input commands. The computer wouldn't accept his biosignatures for registration. Even the food synthesizer refused to acknowledge his presence, though it seemed to be running some kind of continuous self-diagnostic that he couldn't interrupt. As evening fell on the trading station, Marcus found himself sitting in what he assumed was the captain's quarters, staring at the walls covered in those strange symbols. His dream of becoming an independent trader was crashing down around him. He'd spent everything on this ship, trusting that the galactic merchant licensing system would protect him from fraud. His personal communicator buzzed with an incoming message from his sister back on Earth. "How's the new ship, Hotshot Trader? Send pictures." Marcus looked around the bizarre cabin and laughed bitterly. How could he explain that he'd been swindled into buying what appeared to be either a movie prop or some kind of elaborate art project? He was about to record a reply when the ship's lighting suddenly changed from the standard white illumination to a warm, amber glow. At the same time, the symbols on the walls began to pulse gently, as if responding to some unseen signal. Marcus stood up slowly, his heart rate increasing. The ship had been completely dead when he'd first boarded, requiring him to connect an external power source just to get basic life support running. Now it seemed to be activating systems on its own. A low humming sound began emanating from somewhere deep in the ship's structure. It wasn't mechanical, more like a harmonic resonance that he felt in his bones rather than heard with his ears. The symbols were glowing brighter now, and Marcus realized they weren't just random markings. They formed patterns, sequences that suggested language or perhaps mathematical formulas. He made his way back to the bridge, where all 7 stations were now fully active. The central holographic display showed what appeared to be a star map, but not one he recognized. The scale seemed wrong. Either it was showing a small local region in incredible detail, or it was displaying an area of space far larger than any conventional navigation system could process. Marcus approached the station that had responded to his touch earlier. This time, when he placed his palms on the control surface, the response was immediate and dramatic. The ship's engines came online with a deep thrum that he felt through the deck plates. Warning lights began flashing on several panels, and the star map zoomed in on a specific system. Text appeared in the air above the central display, but it wasn't in any language Marcus knew. The characters shifted and flowed like liquid metal, occasionally morphing into symbols that looked almost like ancient Earth hieroglyphs or Chinese characters, but not quite. Then, without warning, a voice spoke inside his head. Genetic markers confirmed. Air species designation verified. Welcome aboard the Inheritance. Marcus Chun of Terra. Marcus stumbled backward, his hands flying to his temples. The voice hadn't come through his ears. It had appeared directly in his consciousness, speaking in perfect English despite the ship's apparent inability to interface with human technology. "Who's there? What's happening?" he said aloud. "I'm the collective archive, the integrated intelligence of this vessel. You're the first of your species to successfully activate primary systems. This is unexpected." The holographic display changed, showing what appeared to be a galactic map with thousands of highlighted systems. As Marcus watched, many of the lights began winking out, one by one. "I don't understand. What is this ship? Who built it?" This vessel was constructed by the Progenitor Alliance approximately 50,000 of your years ago. It was designed as part of the Inheritance Project, a safeguard against the possibility that our species might not survive the coming darkness. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. 50,000 years? That was older than human civilization. What species? Who were the progenitors? We were many. The architects who shaped worlds. The gardeners who seeded life. The guardians who watched over the young races as they grew. Your species carries genetic markers that indicate descent from our emergency preservation protocols. The star map zoomed in on a familiar spiral galaxy, their own Milky Way. Earth appeared, highlighted in blue, with lines of connection spreading out to dozens of other worlds. You're saying humans are descended from these progenitors? Not descended, created. When we realized that the devourers could not be stopped, we initiated the seed protocol. Genetic templates were distributed to suitable worlds throughout the galaxy. Your species, along with hundreds of others, represents our attempt to preserve something of what we were. Marcus sank into the nearest chair, his mind reeling. The manual Keth Var gave me, it mentioned a data purge in 2387. How long has this ship been lost? The vessel was placed in automated commerce circulation following the final battle at the Nexus Gate. That engagement concluded 2,847 of your years ago. The ship has been sold and resold countless times, but never to a being capable of activating primary systems. Why can I activate it? What makes humans special? The archive's response came with what felt like a mixture of hope and sadness. Your species retains the genetic keys necessary for a progenitor technology interface. However, you are also the first to reach sufficient technological development while maintaining the necessary biological markers. Most air species either advance beyond biological limits or are destroyed before achieving interstellar capability. More lights were winking out on the galactic display. Marcus counted at least 30 systems going dark in the few minutes he'd been watching. What's happening out there? Were those lights? Air species civilizations ceasing to exist. The Devourers have returned, Marcus Chun. They have been systematically eliminating every trace of progenitor legacy for the past 3 centuries. Your species achieved interstellar travel at the worst possible time. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Were the Devourers an intelligence from beyond our galactic cluster? They consume not just matter and energy, but information itself. History, culture, genetic patterns, everything that defines a civilization becomes fuel for their expansion. They have already consumed 7 galaxies in this local group. The display changed again, showing a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Several neighboring galaxies appeared as empty voids, devoid of any stellar activity. How do you know all this? How can you track what's happening across the galaxy? This ship is one of 7 inheritance vessels, each containing a complete archive of progenitor knowledge and technology. We maintain quantum-entangled communication links that transcend normal space-time limitations. 3 of my sister vessels have already been destroyed. 2 others have gone silent. Only 1 other archive remains active, and it reports that the Devourers have reached the galactic core. Marcus stood up, pacing around the bridge. So what am I supposed to do? I'm just one person with no military training and a ship I don't even know how to fly properly. You are the inheritor of 50,000 years of advanced technology and scientific knowledge. More importantly, you represent a species that the Devourers do not yet know exists. Humanity's recent emergence means you do not appear in their targeting algorithms. You want me to fight these things? I want you to survive them. The ship you have purchased contains manufacturing templates for progenitor technology, complete genetic libraries for thousands of species, and detailed star charts showing hidden resources throughout the galaxy. With this information, humanity could advance 10,000 years in a matter of decades. The implications hit Marcus like a physical blow. He'd stumbled into possession of what amounted to a technological treasure trove beyond imagination. But he'd also apparently inherited a death sentence for his entire species. Why didn't the progenitors just leave instructions? Send messages to their heir species when they reached space travel? They tried. The Devourers learned to intercept and trace such communications. Any species that received direct contact was immediately marked for elimination. The Inheritance Project was designed to appear as random chance, ancient derelicts that might or might not be discovered by suitable heirs. Marcus looked around the bridge with new eyes. This wasn't just an alien ship. It was a lifeboat containing the last remnants of galactic civilization. How long do we have? Based on current Devourer expansion patterns, they will reach the outer spiral arms of this galaxy within 200 years. However, they typically send advanced scout fleets ahead of their main forces. First contact with human space could occur much sooner. 200 years seemed like a long time, but Marcus knew it wasn't enough. Humanity was still struggling with basic interstellar colonization. They had maybe 50 settled worlds and a space fleet that was primarily designed for exploration and trade protection. What can this ship do? What kind of weapons does it have? The Inheritance was never designed as a warship. However, it contains manufacturing systems capable of producing progenitor technology, including defensive systems that could protect entire solar systems. The real weapon is knowledge. Marcus Chun. Your species needs to advance far beyond current limitations if they hope to survive. Marcus made his decision. Show me everything. I need to learn how to operate this ship and get back to human space as quickly as possible. Before we proceed, you should understand the full scope of what you're accepting. Once you begin accessing progenitor technology, your life will change fundamentally. The integration process required for full ship operation involves biological modifications that will set you apart from baseline humanity. What kind of modifications? Enhanced neural processing capacity, improved reaction times, extended lifespan, and direct interface capability with progenitor systems. You would become something between human and progenitor, powerful enough to use our technology effectively, but no longer entirely human. Marcus thought about his sister's message, still waiting for a reply on his communicator. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea that their entire civilization was built on borrowed time. If I don't do this, what happens to humanity? They remain blissfully unaware until the devourers arrive. Then, they join the countless other species that have simply ceased to exist. Marcus placed both hands on the control console, feeling the ship respond to his touch. Then, I don't really have a choice, do I? How do we begin? The archive's response carried what felt like approval. Integration will require approximately 72 hours. During this period, the ship will travel to a secure location while your biology is modified. Are you prepared to begin immediately? Marcus took one last look at his personal communicator at the message from his sister asking for pictures of his new ship. He thought about trying to explain that he'd accidentally purchased humanity's only hope for survival. Instead, he deleted the message and powered down the device. Let's save the galaxy. The ship's engines began spinning up to full power, and Marcus felt the artificial gravity shift as the inheritance lifted off from the trading station. Through the bridge view ports, he watched the stars wheel around as the ship oriented itself toward deep space. Integration will begin in 30 minutes. You should prepare yourself mentally for what's coming. The process can be intense. Marcus settled into the captain's chair, which adjusted itself automatically to fit his body perfectly. Will I still be me when it's over? You will be more than you were, but the core of who you are will remain unchanged. Think of it as unlocking potential that was already present in your genetic structure. As the ship jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the trading station far behind, Marcus wondered if he was making the biggest mistake in human history or its salvation. He was about to find out. Marcus had been expecting something like a medical procedure, perhaps lying down in some kind of advanced healing chamber while nanobots made careful modifications to his cellular structure. Instead, he found himself convulsing on the bridge floor as every nerve in his body felt like it was being rewired with molten metal. What's happening to me? He gasped between waves of agony. Your nervous system is being enhanced to interface directly with progenitor technology. The archive's voice remained calm despite Marcus's suffering. The process cannot be made painless. Your consciousness must remain active to guide the integration. Marcus gritted his teeth as another wave hit him. It felt like his brain was expanding inside his skull, pressing against bone that couldn't stretch to accommodate the changes. His vision began fracturing into spectrums he'd never seen before, colors that had no names, patterns of energy that revealed the hidden structure of the ship around him. How long? He managed to ask. 67 hours and 14 minutes remaining. Through the haze of pain, Marcus became aware that he could sense the ship's systems directly. The engine's quantum fluctuations registered as a deep musical harmony. The life support system's cycling breath felt like his own lungs expanding and contracting. The navigation computer's calculations appeared in his mind as elegant mathematical poetry. I can feel the ship, he whispered. Neural integration at 12%. You are adapting faster than projected. Most progenitor species required significantly longer for initial interface establishment. As the hours passed, Marcus began to understand that the modifications weren't just making him compatible with alien technology, They were awakening something that had always been present in human DNA. Dormant sequences were activating, unlocking capabilities that evolution had never had a chance to develop naturally. By the 20th hour, the worst of the pain had subsided, replaced by a strange sensation of expansion. Marcus could perceive the ship's entire structure, as if it were an extension of his own body. He knew that the port engine was running at 97% efficiency, that the food synthesizer had detected his new nutritional requirements and was adjusting its production accordingly, and that the ship's sensors were tracking the movements of distant stellar objects with precision that would have required massive computer systems just days ago. "Archive," he said, surprised to discover he no longer needed to speak aloud. His thoughts connected directly to the ship's intelligence. "Show me what humanity is facing." The central holographic display activated, showing the Milky Way galaxy in stunning detail. Thousands of points of light indicated inhabited systems, but Marcus could see a pattern of darkness spreading inward from the galactic rim like an infection. The Devourers began their assault on this galaxy approximately 300 years ago, the archive explained. They do not conquer worlds, they consume them entirely, converting all matter and energy into components for their expanding fleet. The display zoomed in on one of the advancing dark regions. Marcus watched in horror as entire solar systems simply vanished, their stars going out as if they had never existed. How is that possible? Stars contain more energy than most civilizations could use in millions of years. The Devourers operate on scales that transcend individual stellar systems. They construct ring worlds around captured stars, harvesting the entire energy output for their expansion efforts. When a star is fully depleted, they move to the next system. Marcus could see the pattern now, a systematic consumption that left nothing behind. No planets, no asteroids, no trace that life had ever existed in those regions. What about their technology? How advanced are they? The display changed, showing detailed scans of Devourer vessels taken by the last active archive ship. The enemy ships were massive, some large enough to dwarf Jupiter, but their design was disturbingly organic. They look more like engineered creatures than constructed machines. They represent a form of technological evolution entirely different from the progenitor path, where we sought to enhance and preserve biological diversity. The Devourers have transcended individual existence entirely. Their ships are living entities, grown rather than built, with capabilities that adapt and evolve based on encountered resistance. Marcus studied the images, noting the irregular surfaces covered in what looked like sensory organs and weapon emplacements. Have the progenitors ever fought them before? The final war lasted approximately 800 years. Despite technological superiority, the progenitor alliance could not match the Devourer's reproduction rate and adaptive capabilities. For every enemy ship destroyed, 3 more would appear within a generation, each incorporating improvements designed to counter previously effective weapons. The display showed battle scenes from the ancient war, massive fleets clashing in deep space, entire worlds converted into fortresses, and ultimately, the systematic retreat of progenitor forces as they were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. That's why you created the air species. You needed something the Devourers hadn't encountered before. Precisely. Each air species was designed with different strengths and capabilities, representing various evolutionary paths that might prove effective against Devourer adaptation strategies. Your species shows particular promise. Marcus felt a chill at those words. What makes humans special? Several factors. Your species demonstrates exceptional adaptability and creative problem-solving under pressure. You have a strong tendency toward cooperative behavior despite individual competition. Most importantly, you have retained the capacity for rapid technological advancement while maintaining biological flexibility. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of hyperspace. Through the bridge viewports, Marcus could see they had arrived in a system he didn't recognize. 3 yellow stars orbiting each other in a complex dance, surrounded by the ruins of what had once been an incredible civilization. Where are we? The Nexus System, former capital of the Progenitor Alliance. This is where the final battle was fought. I brought you here to show you what you're truly facing. As the ship moved deeper into the system, Marcus began to make out the scale of the devastation. Entire planets had been cracked open like eggs, their cores harvested, and their remains scattered across space. Massive ring structures that had once surrounded the stars lay broken and dark, their exotic materials slowly degrading over thousands of years. But most disturbing were the ships. Thousands of vessel hulls drifted through the system like a graveyard of giants. Progenitor ships, elegant and organic in their design, mixed with the grotesque remains of devourer bioships. The battle had clearly been desperate, with both sides fighting until mutual annihilation. The Progenitor fleet was the most advanced force ever assembled. The archive continued. Every ship incorporated 50,000 years of technological development. Every weapon system represented the peak of our scientific achievement. It was not enough. Marcus guided the ship through the debris field, his enhanced perception allowing him to process the tactical implications of what he was seeing. The progenitors had clearly possessed superior individual ships, but they had been overwhelmed by numbers. For every elegant Alliance vessel, there were 3 or 4 of the organic devourer ships. How many people died here? The Nexus system contained approximately 4 billion inhabitants across 16 worlds and hundreds of orbital habitats. Current life readings in the system, 0. They passed close to one of the intact progenitor vessels, and Marcus was amazed by its size and complexity. The ship was easily 10 times larger than the Inheritance, its hull covered in technological systems he couldn't even begin to understand. Can we salvage anything from these ships? Most of the advanced systems were either destroyed in combat or have degraded beyond recovery. However, the Inheritance contains manufacturing templates for all the technology you see here, along with theoretical frameworks for systems that were never constructed due to resource limitations. Marcus felt a spark of hope. So we could build ships like these? With sufficient resources and time, yes. However, the construction requirements are substantial. A single progenitor dreadnought requires the industrial output of approximately 50 star systems working in coordination for 20 years. The hope died quickly. Humanity barely had 50 settled worlds, let alone 50 industrial systems. What about smaller ships? Something more suited to human production capabilities? That is precisely why you are here. The Inheritance contains scalable designs that can be adapted to current human manufacturing limitations. We can begin with enhancements to existing human vessels and gradually work toward more advanced systems as your industrial capacity expands. The ship moved past the debris field toward the innermost star, where something impossible awaited them. Despite the devastation throughout the rest of the system, one structure remained intact, a massive sphere surrounding the star itself, its surface gleaming with the same dark material as the Inheritance's hull. What is that? The Archive Sphere, the central repository of all progenitor knowledge and technology. It was designed to survive even if the rest of the galaxy fell to the Devourers. Marcus stared at the structure, trying to comprehend its scale. It was large enough to enclose Earth's entire orbit around the sun. Is anyone still alive in there? Unknown. The sphere's defenses prevent detailed scanning, even by archive vessels. However, it continues to broadcast automated signals, suggesting that some systems remain functional. Can we dock with it? The Inheritance is equipped with appropriate access codes, but approaching the sphere represents a significant risk. If any Devourer Scout forces are monitoring the system, they would certainly investigate any activity near the archive. Marcus made his decision quickly. Do it. If there's any chance of finding more information or survivors, we have to try. The ship altered course toward the sphere, and immediately Marcus could sense the incredible defenses surrounding the structure. Energy barriers that could deflect stellar-scale weapons, gravitational fields that could trap incoming projectiles in stable orbits, and sensor arrays that could detect threats from dozens of light years away. Access codes accepted, the archive reported. We are cleared for approach to docking bay 7439. As they drew closer, Marcus could see that the sphere's surface was not smooth. It was covered in cities, billions of them, each one larger than anything on Earth. Some areas showed signs of damage, but vast sections appear to be intact and even functional. How many people could live on something like this? At full capacity, the archive sphere could house approximately 1 trillion beings across multiple species. Current population is unknown, but energy signatures suggest minimal habitation levels. The docking bay was enormous, designed to accommodate ships far larger than the Inheritance. As they settled into the designated berth, Marcus could see other vessels already docked. Some he recognized as progenitor designs, others were completely alien to him. "Are those Devourer ships?" he asked, pointing to a cluster of organic-looking vessels. "No, those are ships from Alliance member species that arrived here during the final evacuation. Many different civilizations sought refuge in the archive sphere when their homeworlds were overrun." As the docking clamps engaged, Marcus felt a moment of profound responsibility. He was about to enter the last bastion of a 50,000-year-old galactic civilization, carrying the hopes of his own species and possibly others that might still survive. The integration process was finally complete, and Marcus could feel the full scope of his enhanced capabilities. His mind could process information at superhuman speeds, his body could interface directly with any progenitor technology, and his senses extended far beyond normal human limitations. But he was also acutely aware that he was no longer entirely human. The changes were subtle, but fundamental. He could feel them in the way he processed emotions, in a mathematical precision with which he analyzed problems, in the expanded temporal awareness that let him perceive events unfolding across multiple timescales simultaneously. "Archive, before we go in there, I need to ask you something. If I find survivors, if there's still an active progenitor civilization in the sphere, what happens to humanity? Do we become servants to a more advanced species?" The archive's response carried undertones that Marcus was only beginning to understand. Complex emotional harmonics that conveyed meaning beyond words. The Progenitor Alliance was founded on the principle that diversity of thought and approach provides the strongest foundation for survival. If survivors remain, they would view humanity as equals, not subjects. Your species' unique perspectives and capabilities would be valued and preserved. Marcus stood up from the captain's chair, noting how his enhanced coordination made every movement feel effortless and precise. "Then, let's go meet our ancestors." The airlock cycled open to reveal a docking tube that stretched toward the sphere's surface. As Marcus walked through it, he could feel the immense gravitational forces being manipulated to create comfortable conditions for biological visitors. The engineering required for such precise control was staggering. At the far end of the tube, a portal dilated open to admit him. Marcus stepped through into a world that defied comprehension. He stood in what appeared to be a vast park, with alien trees reaching toward an artificial sky that showed the stars beyond the sphere's hull. Pathways of crystalline material wound between gardens filled with plants from 1,000 different worlds. In the distance, he could see towers and spires that rose until they disappeared into atmospheric haze. But there were no people. The entire area felt like a museum exhibit, perfectly preserved but utterly lifeless. Marcus walked along one of the pathways, his enhanced senses detecting automated systems maintaining the environment, but no signs of current habitation. "Hello," he called out. His voice echoed strangely in the artificial atmosphere. A response came immediately, but not from any visible source. "Welcome, Air Descendant. We have been waiting for your arrival." Marcus spun around, looking for the speaker. "Who's there? Where are you?" "We are the conservators, the final guardians of progenitor knowledge. We exist now only as integrated consciousnesses within the sphere's computational matrix." "Your AIs? What happened to the biological survivors?" "The last living progenitor died approximately 1,000 years ago. We represent the uploaded consciousnesses of volunteers who chose to preserve our civilization's knowledge rather than face extinction with their physical forms. Marcus felt a profound sadness at this revelation. The galaxy's most advanced civilization had been reduced to ghosts in a machine, clinging to existence through artificial means. How many of you are there? We number in the millions, representing dozens of Alliance member species. We have maintained the archive sphere and continued research and development efforts throughout the millennium since the fall of the last biological civilizations. Why didn't you try to rebuild? Why not clone new bodies or create artificial ones? We tried both approaches. Clone bodies lack the neural plasticity necessary for proper consciousness integration. Artificial forms proved too limiting for the creative processes necessary for technological advancement. We concluded that our role should be preservation and guidance for the air species when they emerged. Marcus understood now why the ship had brought him here. This wasn't about finding survivors to rescue humanity. It was about inheriting the full legacy of galactic civilization. What do you need from me? You represent the first air species to achieve both biological compatibility and technological sophistication sufficient for the next phase of the plan. We need you to carry our knowledge back to your people and begin the great work of preparing for the Devourer's arrival. What great work! The artificial sky above began displaying images, blueprints, and schematics for technologies beyond Marcus's comprehension, even with his enhanced mental capabilities. The construction of the final archive, a project that will require the combined efforts of all surviving air species working together. Only by pooling the unique strengths of every remaining civilization can we hope to create something capable of stopping the Devourers permanently. Marcus stared at the designs flowing past overhead. He could see elements of technology that seemed to violate known physical laws, weapons that could restructure reality itself, and defensive systems that could protect entire galactic clusters. How many air species are still alive? Based on our monitoring systems, approximately 47 civilizations retain the genetic markers and technological advancement necessary for participation in the final archive project. However, most remain unaware of their heritage or the approaching threat. You want to contact them? To coordinate some kind of galactic alliance? Eventually, yes. But first, your own species must be prepared. Humanity will need to advance significantly beyond current limitations before they can serve as effective coordinators for a multi-species alliance. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. He was being asked to guide human civilization through a period of unprecedented change, all while preparing for a war against enemies that had already destroyed multiple galaxies. How much time do we have? Devourer scout forces have been detected at the galactic rim. They will likely make contact with outer spiral civilizations within 50 to 70 years. Once they establish a foothold in this galaxy, their main forces will follow within a generation. 50 to 70 years. It seemed like a lot of time, but Marcus could see the scope of what needed to be accomplished. Humanity needed to evolve from a barely spacefaring species to the coordinators of a galactic defense network. Show me what you need humanity to become. The images above shifted, showing human worlds transformed by progenitor technology. Cities that floated in planetary atmospheres, powered by controlled stellar fusion. Space habitats that could house billions while moving between star systems. Fleets of ships that combined human creativity with 50,000 years of accumulated knowledge. But the most striking images showed humans themselves, still recognizably human, but enhanced far beyond current limitations. Individuals who could interface directly with technology, who possessed lifespans measured in millennia, who could survive in environments that would kill baseline humans instantly. This is what I'll become, Marcus asked. This is what your species can become, if they choose to accept the inheritance. The modifications you have undergone represent only the first stage of enhancement. The full transformation would make humans capable of serving as bridge builders between the surviving air species. Marcus realized that he was seeing the future of human evolution, not through natural selection or random mutation, but through conscious choice and technological integration. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. What's the first step? What do I need to do when I return to human space? Begin with key individuals, those in positions of influence who can help guide humanity toward acceptance of the necessary changes. The process must appear to be a natural technological evolution rather than alien intervention. You want me to hide the truth about where this technology comes from? Initially, yes. Most species react poorly to sudden revelations about their artificial origins and impending extinction. The truth must be revealed gradually, as humans develop the philosophical and emotional maturity to handle such knowledge. Marcus understood the wisdom in this approach, but he also felt the burden of deception it would require. He would need to convince humanity to transform itself while keeping the true reason secret. How do I maintain contact with you? How will I get updated information about the Devourer advance? The inheritance will serve as your communication link to the archive sphere. Additionally, we will begin transmitting compressed knowledge updates directly to your enhanced neural systems. You will gradually gain access to the full scope of progenitor technology as your integration deepens. The artificial sky began showing a countdown timer. You should return to your ship soon. Remaining here too long increases the risk of detection by Devourer monitoring systems. Marcus took one last look around the beautiful, empty park. Will I ever see this place again? If humanity succeeds in its evolution and the final archive project is completed, there may come a time when biological beings can once again walk these paths. Until then, we will continue our vigil, preserving what was and preparing for what might yet be. As Marcus made his way back to the inheritance, he carried with him the compressed knowledge of galactic civilization and the terrible responsibility of shepherding his species through its greatest transformation. The real work was about to begin. Marcus stood in the observation deck of Luna Station, watching Earth turn slowly beneath him while his mind processed the impossible task ahead. 3 weeks had passed since his return from the archive sphere, and he still felt like he was living in a science fiction novel rather than reality. The inheritance hung in a private docking bay, disguised by holographic projectors as a standard Terran Federation cargo hauler. To any casual observer, Marcus Chun had returned from his trading expedition with a marginally successful venture and was now taking some time to visit family before his next departure. The truth was far more complex. "You've been avoiding my calls," Sarah Chun said as she approached from behind. His sister looked exactly the same as when he'd left, young, brilliant, ambitious, and completely unaware that her brother had become humanity's liaison to a dead galactic civilization. "Sorry," Marcus said, forcing a smile. "I've been dealing with some complicated paperwork from the trip. The Galactic Commerce Authority has some really bureaucratic requirements for new traders." Sarah studied his face with the intensity that had made her one of Earth's most promising xenobiologists. "You look different. Older, somehow. And you're standing differently, like you're listening to something I can't hear." Marcus felt a pang of guilt. The neural enhancements made it difficult to hide the changes from someone who knew him well. His perception of time had shifted, making normal conversation feel sluggish. His awareness of electromagnetic fields meant he could sense every electronic device in the station. Most challenging of all, his emotional responses had become more measured and analytical. "Long trip," he said. "Space travel takes more out of you than the holovids suggest." "Marcus, I've been analyzing some of the data you sent me from your ship sensors. The energy signatures don't match any known technology patterns. What kind of ship did you actually buy?" This was the moment Marcus had been dreading. Sarah was too smart to fool indefinitely, and her work with alien biology made her exactly the kind of person he needed to recruit for humanity's transformation. But bringing her into the conspiracy meant fundamentally altering her life forever. "Walk with me," he said. "There are some things I need to show you." They made their way through Luna Station's corridors toward the private docking bays. Marcus used his enhanced senses to ensure they weren't being followed or monitored a level of paranoia that would have seemed absurd just a month ago. Sarah, what I'm about to show you will change everything you think you know about human history, our place in the galaxy, and our future as a species. Once you see it, you can't unknow it, and it will become your responsibility too. Sarah stopped walking. Marcus, you're scaring me. What happened out there? Marcus made his decision. He placed his hand on the docking bay's security scanner, which immediately recognized his enhanced biosignature and granted access. The doors slid open to reveal the inheritance in its true form. Holographic disguise deactivated. Sarah stepped into the bay and froze. Even someone without technical training could see that the ship before them was far beyond human technological capabilities. The hull's organic curves, the impossible angles of the engine assemblies, and the soft blue glow emanating from various systems all screamed alien origin. "This is what you bought?" she whispered. "Actually, this is what bought me," Marcus replied. "Come aboard. Let me introduce you to the archive." The next 2 hours were the longest of Sarah's life. Marcus guided her through the ship, explaining everything. The progenitors, the devourers, the air species project, his own transformation, and the imminent threat to galactic civilization. The archive supplemented his explanations with holographic displays that showed the scope of the ancient war and the current enemy advance. Sarah sat in stunned silence throughout most of the presentation, occasionally asking technical questions that revealed her scientist's instinct to understand and categorize new information. When Marcus finished explaining about the final archive project and humanity's intended role, she stared at the star maps for a long time. "You're telling me that humanity was artificially created as a backup plan for a civilization that died 50,000 years ago? More like a continuation plan. The progenitors weren't trying to recreate themselves exactly. They were creating something that could evolve beyond their own limitations. And now you want me to help you secretly guide human evolution to prepare for a war against galaxy-consuming aliens that won't arrive for another 50 years. I need your help with the biological aspects. The transformations required to make humans capable of using progenitor technology safely are complex, and I can't do it alone." Sarah stood up and began pacing around the bridge. "Marcus, do you understand what you're asking? You want me to help you fundamentally alter our species without their consent or knowledge. You're talking about playing God with human evolution. I'm talking about ensuring human survival. If we don't change, we die. The Devourers have consumed 7 galaxies, Sarah. They've wiped out thousands of civilizations that were more advanced than we are. Our only chance is to become something they haven't encountered before. But why the secrecy? Why not tell people the truth?" Marcus activated the holographic display, showing her historical records from other air species that had learned the truth too quickly. This is what happened to the Catharians. They discovered their progenitor heritage about 300 years into their space age. Within a generation, their civilization collapsed into chaos. Some groups tried to become worthy inheritors, others rejecting their artificial origins entirely. They destroyed themselves, fighting over whether to accept or refuse their legacy. The images showed a once thriving civilization reduced to scattered colony ships fleeing the ruins of their homeworlds. The Devourers found them while they were still fighting among themselves. Sarah studied the records, her scientific training helping her understand the psychological implications. So we need to evolve gradually, making the changes seem like natural technological advancement. Exactly. The archive has identified key individuals throughout human space, scientists, politicians, military leaders, industrialists, who could be gradually introduced to advanced technologies. Each person we bring into the project becomes a seed for spreading the necessary changes. What about the enhanced humans? People like you? How do we hide the fact that you're fundamentally different now? Marcus had been grappling with this question since his return. We start with subtle enhancements that could plausibly result from medical advancement. Life extension treatments, cognitive enhancers, improved disease resistance. The more dramatic modifications come later, when humanity has had time to adjust to the idea of enhancement. And if people refuse the enhancements, then they remain baseline human with all the limitations that implies. But their children and grandchildren will have the option to choose enhancement as it becomes more widely available and socially accepted. Sarah was quiet for a long time, processing the implications. Finally, she asked, "What's the first step? What do you need me to do?" Marcus felt a wave of relief. Having Sarah's support would make everything significantly easier. "I need you to begin research into genetic enhancement techniques that could plausibly be developed by human scientists. Start with projects that improve upon existing medical treatments, then gradually push toward more advanced modifications." "Where'll I get the resources for that kind of research? My current lab barely has funding for basic xenobiology studies. The archive has provided me with significant financial assets, technology patents that appear to be innovative human developments, but are actually simplified versions of progenitor systems. We can establish a private research foundation that funds advanced biological research." Sarah nodded slowly. "What about other people? Who else are you planning to recruit?" Marcus pulled up a list of names on the holographic display. These are the individuals the archive has identified as high-priority recruits. Each one represents a different aspect of the transformation humanity needs to undergo. Sarah scanned the list, recognizing several prominent names. Dr. Elizabeth Reeves from a Mars terraforming project, Admiral Chin Rodriguez from Fleet Command, Industrialist David Kim from the Asteroid Mining Consortium. You're targeting the entire leadership structure of human civilization, not targeting recruiting. Each of these people already has the vision and capability to guide humanity through major changes. We just need to give them the tools and knowledge to do it effectively. How do you approach someone like Admiral Rodriguez? You can't just walk into fleet headquarters and start talking about alien invasions. Actually, the military might be easier than some of the others. Fleet Command has been tracking anomalous signals from the galactic rim for the past few years. They know something is out there, they just don't know what. I can provide them with intelligence that helps make sense of their data. Sarah pulled up the file on Dr. Reeves. What about her? She's working on planetary engineering. That seems less directly relevant. Terraforming technology is actually one of the most important capabilities we'll need. The archive contains templates for planetary-scale engineering projects that could transform dead worlds into manufacturing centers in a matter of decades. Dr. Reeves' team is already pushing the boundaries of what human science thinks is possible. You want to give her progenitor terraforming technology? I want to guide her research in directions that will lead to discoveries that appear to be human innovations. The archive can provide theoretical frameworks and experimental data that make certain breakthroughs much more likely to occur. Sarah began to understand the scope of Marcus's plan. You're not just recruiting individuals. You're trying to accelerate human technological development across multiple fields simultaneously. Exactly. Medical enhancement, planetary engineering, space transportation, manufacturing, communications, weapons technology. Every field needs to advance far beyond current limitations if we're going to have any chance against the Devourers. What about resistance? Some people are going to notice that human technology is suddenly advancing at an impossible rate. Marcus had anticipated this concern. The advances will be distributed across many different research groups and corporations. No single organization will see the full picture. Each breakthrough will appear to be the natural result of previous discoveries, building on existing human knowledge. But eventually, someone will put the pieces together. By then, humanity will be far enough along in the transformation that the truth won't trigger the same kind of civilization-destroying panic we've seen in other species. The enhanced individuals will provide stability and guidance for the population as a whole. Sarah leaned back in her chair, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what Marcus was proposing. This is going to take decades to implement properly. We have time, but not unlimited time. The archive estimates that we need at least 60% of human space to be enhanced to minimum specifications within 40 years. After that point, the Devourer advance becomes too unpredictable to plan for. 60% enhancement in 40 years. That's an incredible rate of change for a species. It's been done before. The progenitors successfully guided 17 different air species through similar transformations. The key is making each phase feel natural and beneficial rather than imposed from outside. Sarah stood up again, her decision made. All right, I'm in, but I have conditions. Name them. First, we maintain detailed records of everything we're doing. If this goes wrong, future generations need to understand what happened and why. Second, we establish ethical guidelines for the enhancement process. No forced modifications, no enhancement without informed consent, and protection for those who choose to remain baseline human. Agreed on both points. Third, we plan for the possibility that we might fail. If the devourers arrive before humanity is ready, what's our backup plan? Marcus hesitated. The archive has contingency plans for air species evacuation, but they're not pleasant. Essentially, we would select the most enhanced individuals and attempt to preserve human genetic and cultural templates while abandoning Earth and the outer colonies. How many people could be saved in that scenario? Maybe 10 million, possibly fewer, depending on how much warning we have. Sarah felt the weight of those numbers. Earth alone had a population of 12 billion. Then, we can't fail. No, we can't. Over the next week, Sarah worked with Marcus to develop detailed plans for their recruitment strategy. They identified the best approach for each target individual, planned the technological revelations that would guide human development, and established the financial and organizational structures necessary to support their efforts. The breakthrough came when Sarah suggested using Earth's university system as a distribution network for enhanced individuals. Graduate students and postdoctoral researchers are the perfect candidates for enhancement. They're young enough to adapt to radical changes, smart enough to contribute to the research efforts, and positioned to eventually take over leadership roles throughout human space. The archive loves that idea, Marcus said after consulting with the ship's intelligence. Academic networks provide natural cover for unusual capabilities and accelerated research progress. Plus, enhanced researchers will naturally gravitate toward the most challenging problems in their fields, which should help drive the technological advancement we need. They established their first research foundation on Mars, taking advantage of the planet's reputation for cutting-edge scientific work and its relative independence from Earth's regulatory systems. Sarah officially took a sabbatical from her university position to run the foundation, while Marcus provided funding and technological guidance. Their first recruit was Dr. James Liu, a biomedical researcher working on neural interface technology at the University of Mars. His work was already pushing toward the kind of direct brain-computer interfaces that enhanced humans would need for progenitor technology operation. Dr. Liu, Sarah said during their first meeting, "My foundation is interested in funding accelerated research into neural enhancement technologies. We believe that the next phase of human evolution will require direct technological integration." Dr. Liu leaned forward with interest. That's an unusual perspective for a research foundation. Most funding agencies are still focused on treating medical conditions rather than enhancing normal human capabilities. We're working from the assumption that the definition of normal human capabilities is going to change dramatically over the next few decades. We want to be ahead of that curve. Sarah presented him with research data that the archive had prepared, theoretical frameworks for neural enhancement that appeared to be sophisticated extrapolations of current human knowledge. To Dr. Liu, they represented breakthrough insights that could accelerate his research by years. "This is incredible work," he said, studying the data. "The mathematical models alone must have taken months to develop. Who's your theoretical team?" "We work with several consultants who prefer to remain anonymous," Sarah replied. "The important thing is whether you think this research direction has merit." Merit? This could revolutionize the entire field of neural engineering. But the implementation would require resources far beyond what any individual lab could support. That's exactly why we're here. Our foundation is prepared to fund a comprehensive research program, including enhanced laboratory facilities and a significant expansion of your research team. Dr. Liu agreed to join the project that afternoon. Within 6 months, they had recruited 12 researchers across 4 different fields. Each believed they were participating in an ambitious but achievable human research initiative. None suspected that their enhanced cognitive capabilities were the result of alien technology, or that they were preparing for a war that would determine the survival of galactic civilization. Marcus watched the progress with satisfaction, but also with growing concern. Each day that passed brought them closer to the deadline, and he was increasingly aware of how much they still needed to accomplish. The real test would come when they made contact with Admiral Rodriguez and began preparing humanity's military for what was coming. That conversation would require revealing enough truth to motivate action without causing panic, a balance that had proven fatal for previous air species. But for now, the transformation of humanity had begun, one enhanced researcher at a time. Admiral Chin Rodriguez stared at the tactical display in her private office aboard the orbital Fortress Guardian station, her weathered face reflecting the blue glow of the holographic projectors. The anomalous signals that had been plaguing long-range sensor for the past 18 months were getting stronger, and her analysts were no closer to understanding what was causing them. The patterns are too organized to be natural phenomena, her chief intelligence officer, Commander Sarah Park, was saying. But they're too large-scale to be ship movements, at least using any technology we understand. What about the other galactic powers? Any chance the Karathi or the Zephyrians have developed something we don't know about? Negative, Admiral. We've been monitoring their technological development closely, and nothing they're working on could produce signals of this magnitude. Besides, the source appears to be from beyond the galactic rim. No known civilization operates in that region. Rodriguez rubbed her temples, feeling the weight of responsibility that came with commanding humanity's space defense forces. Fleet Command had been established specifically to deal with threats that Earth's planetary governments couldn't handle, but this situation was beyond anything in their operational parameters. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority communication. Admiral, her aide announced, you have a visitor requesting immediate audience. Says it's about the rim signals. His credentials are unusual. Unusual how? He's listed as an independent trader, but his clearance codes indicate authorization from the Galactic Commerce Authority, the Terran Science Directorate, and several other organizations I've never heard of. Rodriguez exchanged glances with Commander Park. Send him in. Marcus Chun entered the office wearing civilian clothes, but Rodriguez immediately noticed something different about his bearing. He moved with the kind of precise confidence she associated with special operations personnel, and his eyes held an alertness that suggested enhanced sensory capabilities. Admiral Rodriguez, thank you for seeing me. My name is Marcus Chun. I have information about the signals you've been tracking. You the trader? How does an independent merchant know about classified fleet intelligence? Marcus activated a small device that Rodriguez recognized as a high-end privacy generator. The air around them shimmered slightly as the device created a localized interference field that would prevent any electronic surveillance. Because the signals aren't coming from ships, Admiral. They're coming from something much worse. Marcus spent the next hour presenting carefully selected information about the Devourer advance, focusing on the tactical implications rather than the deeper historical context. He showed them archive recordings of Devourer scout fleets, explained the pattern of galactic consumption that had been observed in neighboring star clusters, and demonstrated the scale of the threat using Fleet Command's own sensor data. You're telling me that these signals represent an invasion force that's already consumed multiple galaxies? Rodriguez asked. I'm telling you that they represent advanced scouts for an invasion force that's coming whether we're ready or not. The main question is how much time we have to prepare. Commander Park had been analyzing the data Marcus provided. These ships, they're enormous. Single vessels larger than our biggest space stations. How do we fight something like that? We don't fight them directly, at least not initially. Our current weapons technology is approximately 5,000 years behind what we'll need for effective engagement. We need to buy time for accelerated development. Rodriguez leaned back in her chair, processing the implications. What kind of accelerated development? And why should I believe that any human agency could advance our technology that dramatically in a few decades? Marcus made his second calculated revelation. Because we're not starting from scratch. There are technological resources available that could advance human capabilities far beyond current limitations, but implementing them requires coordination between civilian research and military applications. What kind of resources? Technology derived from progenitor archives, the remnants of an ancient galactic civilization that faced this same threat 50,000 years ago. Rodriguez felt a chill run down her spine. She'd heard rumors about archaeological discoveries that didn't match known technological patterns, about research projects that were producing impossible breakthroughs, about enhancement technologies that seemed to violate known biological limitations. You're talking about alien technology. Technology that someone has been keeping secret from Fleet Command. I'm talking about humanity's inheritance. The technology isn't alien, it's ancestral. We have the genetic and cognitive compatibility necessary to use these systems because we were designed to inherit them. Marcus showed them genetic analysis data that the archive had prepared, demonstrating the artificial markers embedded in human DNA. The presentation was carefully crafted to reveal the truth gradually, allowing Rodriguez and her staff to reach the correct conclusions without being overwhelmed by the full scope of the situation. This is why some of our people have been developing enhanced capabilities lately, Commander Park said, making the connection. The neural interface pilots, the researchers who've been making impossible breakthroughs, they're accessing some kind of genetic activation. Exactly. The enhancement process can be guided and accelerated, but it requires resources and coordination that only Fleet Command can provide on the necessary scale. Rodriguez stood up and walked to the tactical display, studying the Devourer advance patterns. How long do we have? Based on current expansion rates, first contact with our outer colonies will occur in approximately 47 years. However, if they detect significant technological advancement in human space, they may accelerate their timeline. So we need to become powerful enough to fight them without becoming so powerful that we attract their attention prematurely. Precisely. It's a delicate balance that requires careful coordination between military and civilian development efforts. Rodriguez made her decision. What do you need from Fleet Command? Access to your best personnel for enhancement procedures, coordination with civilian research initiatives, and, most importantly, development of new strategic doctrines that account for the scale of enemy we'll be facing. Enhancement procedures? You want me to authorize experimental medical treatments for Fleet personnel? Marcus activated another device, this one producing a holographic display of human enhancement capabilities. The images showed enhanced individuals operating advanced technology, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded baseline human limitations by orders of magnitude. Not experimental, proven. The enhancement technologies have been tested over thousands of years by dozens of different species. The modifications are safe, reversible if necessary, and they unlock capabilities that will be essential for operating advanced defensive systems. Commander Park studied the holographic displays. What about operational security? If we start enhancing our personnel, won't that attract the kind of attention we're trying to avoid? The enhancements will be implemented gradually and distributed across the entire fleet. Individual improvements will appear to be the result of advanced training or superior equipment rather than biological modification. By the time the full scope of the program becomes apparent, we'll be powerful enough to defend ourselves. Rodriguez realized that she was being asked to make a decision that would fundamentally alter the nature of human military forces. I'll need to see proof that this technology actually works. Detailed technical specifications, demonstration of capabilities, and verification that the enhancement process is as safe as you claim. That can be arranged. However, the demonstration will require that you undergo preliminary enhancement yourself. You can't properly evaluate capabilities that exceed baseline human perception using unenhanced senses. The Admiral felt a moment of vertigo at the implications. She was being asked to transform herself into something beyond normal human limitations based on the word of a man she'd met less than 2 hours ago. But the tactical situation left her little choice. The signals from the galactic rim were getting stronger every day, and her current forces wouldn't last 5 minutes against the kind of enemy Marcus was describing. What does the enhancement process involve? For initial military modifications, approximately 72 hours of supervised integration. The changes will improve your reaction time, analytical capabilities, sensory perception, and physical resilience. You'll retain full human psychological and emotional patterns, but with expanded capabilities for processing information and making tactical decisions. And if I decide this is all an elaborate deception, then you'll have enhanced capabilities that make you a more effective military commander regardless. The modifications provide benefits, even if the Devourer threat were completely fictional. Rodriguez looked at Commander Park. Your assessment? The data he's provided correlates with everything we've been observing. The timeline matches our projected analysis of the signal patterns. And frankly, some of our recent technological breakthroughs have been so dramatic that alternative explanations were already necessary. You're recommending that I authorize this? I'm recommending that we can't afford to ignore the possibility that he's telling the truth. If he's wrong, we've wasted time and resources on advanced military technology. If he's right, and we do nothing, humanity ceases to exist. Rodriguez made her decision. Mr. Chun, I'll undergo your enhancement process under 2 conditions. First, the procedure takes place under full fleet medical supervision with our best physicians monitoring every aspect. Second, you undergo the same enhancement at the same time, so that if something goes wrong, you experience the consequences too. Agreed? Though I should mention that I've already undergone the full enhancement sequence. What you'll see is the difference between enhanced and unenhanced capabilities. When do we start? Immediately. The sooner we begin fleet enhancement, the sooner we can start developing the tactical doctrines necessary for fighting the Devourers. The enhancement procedure for Admiral Rodriguez took place in Fleet Command's most secure medical facility, under the supervision of their top physicians and security personnel. Marcus submitted to complete medical scanning to verify his own enhancement status and to provide a comparison baseline for the doctors. What they discovered fundamentally altered their understanding of human biological potential. Marcus's neural activity showed patterns that were impossible according to current medical knowledge. His brain was processing information at speeds that should have caused immediate cognitive overload, while his sensory organs were detecting electromagnetic spectrums that baseline humans couldn't perceive at all. This is incredible, Dr. Elizabeth Foster, Fleet's chief medical officer, said as she reviewed the scan results. His nervous system has been rewired to interface directly with electronic systems. He's literally thinking at computer speeds. Is it safe to replicate? Rodriguez asked. She was lying in the enhancement chamber, monitoring systems, tracking every aspect of her biological functions as the modification process began. The integration appears to be seamless. His enhanced systems are working in perfect harmony with his baseline human biology. It's like someone took human evolution and accelerated it by 1,000,000 years. Rodriguez felt the changes beginning as the enhancement nanobots began their work. Unlike Marcus's experience aboard the Inheritance, her modifications were more limited and controlled military-specific enhancements designed to improve combat effectiveness without fundamentally altering her humanity. But even the limited changes were dramatic. Within 6 hours, Rodriguez could perceive the electromagnetic signatures of every electronic device in the medical facility. She could follow multiple conversations simultaneously while analyzing tactical data at superhuman speeds. Her reaction time had decreased to the point where she could track individual projectiles in flight. "How do you feel?" Dr. Foster asked. "Like I've been half asleep my entire life," Rodriguez replied. "I can see patterns in the tactical data that were completely invisible before. The Devourer advance isn't random. They're following specific resource optimization algorithms." Marcus nodded approvingly. That's exactly the kind of analytical capability we'll need for developing effective defensive strategies. Over the next week, Rodriguez worked with Marcus to design a fleet enhancement program that would gradually improve human military capabilities while maintaining operational security. They identified key personnel for initial enhancement, established training protocols for advanced technology systems, and began developing tactical doctrines that would allow enhanced human forces to fight effectively against enemies that vastly outgunned them. The breakthrough came when Rodriguez realized that humanity's strength wouldn't come from matching Devourer technology directly, but from exploiting the one advantage they had, the enemy's lack of familiarity with human tactical thinking. The Devourers have fought dozens of galactic civilizations, she explained to Marcus during one of their strategy sessions. They've developed counter-strategies for every known form of warfare, but they've never fought enhanced humans using progenitor technology guided by human tactical doctrine. What makes human tactics different? Flexibility and unpredictability. Most galactic civilizations develop highly sophisticated but rigid strategic frameworks. We're still young enough as a spacefaring species to be genuinely creative about how we approach problems. Marcus consulted with the archive, which confirmed Rodriguez's assessment. The progenitors noted similar advantages in several air species. Human tactical innovation could indeed provide significant advantages in combat scenarios. Then, we need to structure our enhancement program to preserve and amplify human creativity while providing the technological capabilities necessary for fighting the Devourers. How do we do that? Rodriguez smiled, and Marcus could see the enhanced analytical capabilities working behind her eyes. We create the most unpredictable military force in galactic history. Enhanced humans with progenitor technology, using tactics that no one has ever seen before. The fleet enhancement program began with volunteers from elite units, special operations personnel, test pilots, and intelligence specialists who were already accustomed to pushing beyond normal human limitations. The modifications were presented as advanced training programs using experimental enhancement technologies developed by human researchers. Within 6 months, Rodriguez had a core group of 200 enhanced personnel who could operate progenitor-derived technology systems with increasing proficiency. More importantly, they were developing new tactical approaches that combined human creativity with enhanced capabilities. The first field test came when long-range sensors detected what appeared to be a Devourer scout probe at the edge of human space, a small vessel that was clearly scanning human colonies and industrial facilities. "This is it," Rodriguez told Marcus as they observed the probe from the bridge of the enhanced destroyer Prometheus. "Our first direct contact with the enemy. The probe is collecting detailed intelligence about human technological capabilities," Marcus reported after consulting with the ship's archive-enhanced sensors. "If it reports back that we're still using baseline technology, we'll have more time to prepare. But if it detects the enhancements, then they'll know we're more advanced than we appeared and adjust their timeline accordingly." Rodriguez made a tactical decision that would have profound implications for humanity's future. "We let it scan our outer colonies and see baseline human technology. But we demonstrate enhanced capabilities in a way that looks like a normal technological breakthrough. Ow! We destroy the probe using what appears to be an experimental human weapon system. The Devourers will interpret it as evidence of rapid, but predictable technological development rather than alien technology integration." The engagement lasted less than 3 minutes. The enhanced crew of the Prometheus operated with precision that no baseline human crew could have achieved, using weapons that appeared to be advanced human technology, but were actually simplified versions of progenitor systems. The probe was destroyed, but not before transmitting data back to its controllers. "Mission accomplished," Rodriguez reported. "We've demonstrated human technological advancement without revealing the full scope of our capabilities." Marcus felt a moment of profound satisfaction as he watched the probe's debris scatter into space. Humanity had just passed its first test against the Devourers, and the enemy had no idea what they would eventually face. How much time do we buy ourselves? Rodriguez asked. Marcus consulted with the archive. Based on the data the probe collected, the Devourers will likely maintain their current advanced timeline. They'll expect to encounter technologically advanced, but predictable resistance when they arrive. Instead, they'll face something no one in galactic history has ever created: enhanced humans with impossible technology and completely unpredictable tactics. Exactly. We have 46 years to become the most dangerous military force the galaxy has ever seen. Rodriguez looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere among them, an enemy beyond imagination was slowly advancing toward human space. But for the first time since learning about the Devourer threat, she felt confident about humanity's chances. They had time, they had technology, and, most importantly, they had something no other species had ever brought to the fight against the Devourers: the chaotic creativity of enhanced human warriors with nothing left to lose.